The Insight Views. On the 11th of May, 2025, what should have been a quiet Mother's Day afternoon in Philadelphia ended in tragedy when 30-year-old Kidder Johnson, better known to the public as the rapper LGP Qua, was shot and killed in the Juniata Park section of the city. The shooting occurred around 4:40 p.m. near the intersection of M and East Luzerne Streets in northeast Philadelphia. Johnson was rushed by private vehicle to Temple University Hospital, where doctors pronounced him dead shortly after his arrival. Johnson's death shocked the city. He was not just a rapper with a growing national profile, but also a visible anti-violence advocate who used his music and his platform to speak out against gun crime.
I was born at, on the north side, where the lights was never on at. We window shop before we really shop. We can't afford that. They banning laws, they telling all the girls you can't abort that. 300 murders, and it's still counting. Shit is serious. My youngin' 12, used to the murder, ain't scared of it, cause he from North Philly where you bound to see.
Over the years, he had become deeply involved in community projects, from youth outreach to large sneaker giveaways for school children in partnership with Puma and Foot Locker. To many in Philadelphia, he symbolized what it meant to rise from difficult circumstances and give back to the community. What unfolded on that Mother's Day afternoon has since been pieced together by investigators. Police say Johnson was targeted in what appeared to be a robbery. Witnesses and surveillance footage show that he was approached by two men who confronted him, and within seconds, gunfire erupted. Johnson was struck multiple times. A third person, believed to be the getaway driver, waited nearby. The suspects fled on foot and in a vehicle, which investigators later identified as a black Nissan Altima. That car was recovered by police as they worked quickly to identify those responsible. Philadelphia's homicide unit immediately launched a citywide investigation. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood for surveillance footage from homes and businesses, interviewed potential witnesses, and examined ballistic evidence from the scene. Within days, police released images of two suspects caught on nearby cameras. The public appeal drew dozens of tips, and those tips became crucial in identifying the individuals behind the deadly robbery. The investigation soon yielded arrests. Authorities announced that two 19-year-old men, Joshua Thomas Coleman and Abdul Boyd, were taken into custody and charged with murder, robbery, conspiracy, and related offenses. Charging documents revealed that police believed the pair attempted to rob Johnson of his gold chains before opening fire. A third suspect, identified as 22-year-old Amir Early, initially remained at large. Law enforcement launched a manhunt, and with the help of the U.S. Marshal Service, Early was later captured and charged in connection with the killing. The motive, police said, appeared to be simple but brutal: robbery. In recent years, Philadelphia and other major cities have seen an uptick in jewelry-related robberies where visible gold chains and expensive accessories make people targets. For Johnson, a man who had dedicated himself to fighting violence and mentoring young people, the irony was especially tragic. He had spent years telling younger generations to stay away from crime, only to become a victim of the very problem he worked to address. The involvement of federal partners underscored how seriously law enforcement treated the case. In urban homicide investigations that cross jurisdictions or require resources beyond the local level, federal agencies like the U.S. Marshals often provide manpower, technology, and intelligence support. Their work was instrumental in tracking down suspects who had attempted to evade capture in the days following Johnson's death. As word of his killing spread, Philadelphia reacted with grief and outrage. Vigils were held across the city, with hundreds gathering to remember Johnson not just as a rapper but as a leader who gave back. Fellow artists and activists spoke of his ability to connect with youth, blending the credibility of his music with a message of hope and resilience. For many, his death highlighted a cruel paradox: a man who built his career by denouncing violence was gunned down in cold blood on a neighborhood street. The broader community also used the moment to demand change. Activists renewed calls for investment in neighborhood programs, youth employment opportunities, and trauma services. They argued that preventing gun violence required more than just policing; it required addressing the root causes of desperation and crime. City officials, meanwhile, emphasized the importance of community cooperation with investigations and pledged to continue pushing forward strategies to reduce shootings across Philadelphia. Legally, the case against the suspects is still unfolding. Prosecutors are preparing for trial, relying on a combination of witness testimony, forensic analysis, surveillance footage, and digital evidence. Defense attorneys are expected to challenge the reliability of identifications, the handling of evidence, and the circumstances of the arrests. Whether the case concludes with convictions or plea agreements, it will mark an important moment for the city's criminal justice system, testing its ability to hold accountable those who carried out such a high-profile killing. For Johnson's supporters, however, the focus remains on his legacy. They want him to be remembered not only for the circumstances of his death, but for the life he lived and the message he spread. He was a man who used his platform to bridge the gap between the streets and community leaders, between music and activism. He showed that it was possible to remain true to one's roots while working for positive change. His music carried messages of struggle, survival, and resistance against cycles of violence, themes that now feel even more poignant in the wake of his murder. As the case moves through the courts, Philadelphia continues to mourn. Johnson's funeral drew crowds who celebrated his life through music, prayer, and remembrance. His story has sparked renewed conversations about gun violence in America's cities, and about the fragile line between success and tragedy in communities still plagued by crime. For many, his death is not just the loss of an artist, but the silencing of a powerful advocate for peace. This is the story of LGP Qua Johnson, a Philadelphia rapper, activist, and community leader whose life ended far too soon. His killing remains a painful reminder of the ongoing struggle against gun violence, and a call for renewed efforts to build safer streets, stronger communities, and brighter futures for the young people he dedicated his life to protecting. The Insight Views. Sharper focus. Deeper insight. Uncovering stories, revealing truths. Turning headlines into understanding.